But hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new review on the channel today, and today is a very, I think, special review because I was very excited for this movie. It came out last week. I didn't actually get the chance to go see it. Instead, I was watching The Flash, which I kind of regret that now that I think about it, but I saw it now, and I actually really wanted to talk about this movie because there's been a lot of really interesting developments, I think, with this film. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this, we are going to be talking about Pixar's newest film today, Elemental. Now, this film has been making its rounds on the internet for the last week, and I don't really understand why. There is one really big thing that a lot of people are taking into account, and that is the fact that this movie bombed super hard at the box office its first week. It's kind of insane how bad it bombed. The film made $29.5 million its first weekend, which honestly, it doesn't sound too bad on paper until you start to look at some of the other things that Pixar has done. Stuff like The Good Dinosaur and Onward both made around $39.5 million its first opening weekend. And that's immediately a red flag. This movie made $10 million less than some of Pixar's weakest films, which I think is crazy. And the biggest thing that I thought was crazy is that this movie is not going to make its budget back. Like, there's no chance. And that reason is because this movie cost $300 million to make. That is more than Across the Spider-Verse and Super Mario Bros. Combined. That is crazy. So it's safe to say this movie is making absolutely no money, which I honestly don't really understand, to be honest, because the advertising for this movie was everywhere. So it's honestly really surprising me that this is the Pixar movie that's making the least amount of money out of all of them, which is honestly really upsetting because honestly, I really like this movie, and I'm really sad that this movie is not getting the proper recognition that it deserves. I don't think that this movie is as strong as Pixar's other films, like stuff like The Incredibles and Monsters, Inc. It's not on the same level as that, but it's definitely higher. It's definitely way better than half of the things Pixar has made over the last 3 years. It's better than Luca, Turning Red, Lightyear, Soul, honestly. It is pretty damn good, and it's definitely a really big step, I think, in the right direction, but not nearly enough people are seeing it that way, and a lot of people are outright not enjoying the movie at all, which I'm gonna get into again, but I don't get the hate. I really don't get the hate. I had a really great time with this movie, and I'm gonna explain why I had a good time with it in a second. But for those who don't know, this film is set in a world where elements like fire, water, and earth and air are sentient, and they live in their own sort of society. And this is where we follow our main character, Ember, who is trying to live up to her father's legacy of running the family shop, which the father has worked so hard over his life to achieve, and she's gonna be taking up that business. But when the store is in jeopardy of being shut down, Ember must find a way to save it, and that's when she meets Wade. So this film is basically about them trying to save this store, but also between the two a romance starts to form, and that's where the main meat of this movie, besides our main conflict, comes in. If I was to say one thing about this movie, I'd say that this is the closest Pixar's ever gotten to making a traditional rom-com movie, and I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was great, honestly. I thought it was familiar. It was a very familiar film, and it very much you knew what was gonna happen throughout the entire movie, but I don't think it was necessarily done that bad. So just to start off, I do want to say this. I 110% think that the strongest element about this movie is its main characters. Even though it's kind of predictable and it's kind of, it's a little bit generic, the characters are really what keeps this movie going. And I just want to say it right now, I loved them throughout this entire movie. I thought they worked super well off each other. I thought they were very funny, both of them, and they all had their own quirks and charms, and their own struggles as well, and their own ways of looking at things, and almost like different cultures that the film plays with all these different types of people, and all these different groups of people, like the air people are different to the water people. I thought it was very interesting, and the same goes with their characters. They very much come from different backgrounds, and I really like that. But I also just really liked how the filmmakers were actually able to make this seem like a believable couple. It felt very natural. It didn't feel forced at all. It felt like they were just naturally starting to love each other throughout the film, and it just felt very sweet and authentic. And I really liked that. And I think that's really where this movie shines, is that couple aspect and their relationship throughout the film and how they blossom throughout the film and how they get to know each other and they start to learn things about themselves and what they want to do with their lives. I thought it was great. I really thought it was a really smart and clever way to do this movie. Wade being the more emotional and more carefree one, always being the sort of bubbly one, the happy one, and I really liked him. He was really funny. Throughout the entire movie, he was kind of a little bit annoying at the beginning, but he definitely redeemed himself as the film went on. I thought he was a lot of fun to watch and very funny, and I liked how supportive he was and how he was slowly trying to help Ember get back her family's business. I thought it was great. Like, really, I thought he was such a great character, and that goes with Ember, too. She's definitely one of the more hot-headed ones. Did you get what I'm gonna move on. But no, she's more of the hot-headed one, more of the loose cannon. She blows up when people are talking to her, when she gets criticism or anything like that, and she's definitely just more emotional. She's more emotional in the way that she can blow up at any moment, and I thought they worked really, really well off each other, and they really worked well with one another. But honestly, at the end of the day, when it comes to these two characters, how they did it, I thought was beautiful. I genuinely thought their relationship, and especially one scene closer to the end of the movie, I thought was just downright masterful. Like, I was tearing up a little bit. My friend beside me was tearing up as well. Another really obvious thing is the animation in this movie is top-notch, stellar. Like, I don't think I really need to tell you that. Like, it's Pixar. It's always going to look good. Even if it's not a great film, it's always going to look good. It's just how it is. There are a lot of really, really cool ideas in this movie with its animation and little details, especially with our main characters, where there's just little details, because you have to take into account one's made of fire and one's made of water. So they actually play with that, and there's a lot of really cool little details within the film that really do show how great the animation is and the attention to detail by the filmmakers. Like, there's one scene where Wade has a pair of headphones on, and you can kind of see, like, his head pulsating because the sound's, like, almost radiating through his head. It's like watching that little cup in Jurassic Park like go boom, boom, and the vibrations of the water. I thought it was a really funny little thing. It definitely felt a lot more like a cartoon this time around, which I'm completely okay with, because Pixar's been known to make stuff that looks really realistic, and there's no issue with that, but I think we're in a time where I think the big thing people want to see is a little bit of variety and a little bit of different animation styles, and that goes with designs as well, and I really think this movie delivered. It's just very unique to look at, even though it's not everyone's cup of tea. I thought it was great. And I definitely do want to say this movie has a lot of heart. Like, even though it's pretty generic and it's not really, it doesn't go for any like big hits, you know? It's not trying to be this like grand thing that we've never seen before, but just considering what it tried to do and what it was going for, I thought it did a really good job, and the heart is definitely in this movie. There are a lot of really sweet and emotional moments in this movie, especially between our main characters and Ember and her father, but just the main conflict and the emotion in this movie made me feel like I was watching an old Pixar movie again. It really made me feel like I was watching something like, maybe something lesser like Soul, or maybe even something like Finding Dory, actually. I actually thought it was really sweet and emotional, and there were a lot of really, really great scenes that really complemented that. And as I said before, some of the themes in this movie I really liked as well. It's very similar to Zootopia, where in that movie it very much was kind of a metaphor for racism in some ways. I definitely don't think they did it in this movie like entirely very well. Like, there were some moments where it was very non-subtle. Like, I definitely think that that message of racism could have been a lot more subtle, but I definitely don't think the movie did like a bad job at explaining it. It was just something I noticed that Zootopia did better, so I might as well mention it at least. But I definitely think the strongest theme in this movie is its theme of expectation, because as an example, in this movie, Ember's family comes from a place where they had to literally abandon everything to have a better life and go to the city. This is very much reminiscent of how it happens in real life sometimes, where an immigrant family has to move somewhere to have a better life for their family or their children. And this is a very relatable thing, I think, to a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to resonate with this movie. As much as I didn't, I could recognize that a lot of people who have gone through similar things are gonna have that experience and are gonna connect with this movie, especially because in the movie they work so hard to get this shop. The dad worked so hard, he worked all his life, and there's a dilemma by Ember where she thinks she wants to continue his legacy, but by the end of the movie she's like, I want to be my own person. I realize that you did all this to make our lives better, and we will always love you for it, but I still want to branch off and be my own person. And I thought that was a beautiful message, and I thought it was really well done. I thought that part of the movie was great, honestly. I teared up a lot, but I really love that message, and it was very different, and I can't remember an animated movie where it did something like that. I thought it was great. Like, honestly, I thought it was a very sweet and wholesome message and relevant message that worked really well, and I thought that part of the film was very subtle and great. I just thought it was great. And also, I really like the soundtrack in this movie. One of my favorite soundtracks in a Pixar movie in a while. A lot of really great songs and a lot of just really good musical components that really blend really well with certain sequences. Just a little thing, but I feel people don't recognize it that much, and in this movie I just thought it was great. It really helped the film a lot. And now I'm gonna go into some of the cons, but I've kind of alluded to some of the cons, and my biggest con in this movie is just the fact that it's familiar. Like, it's not breaking any new ground. This is a story we've seen a lot before, and that's okay. And this is also a concept we've seen a lot, where Pixar takes a certain thing, it could be an animal or an object, and gives it emotions. This isn't anything new, but I definitely don't think it was done bad or awful in any shape, way, or form. I thought it was done great. For what they were trying to do, I liked it a lot, but I can also say that this movie isn't super original. But I don't think it's a bad plot either to go with. But all in all, that's really where my cons end. I really like this movie. I had a really great time with this movie. I'm really upset that this movie isn't making a whole lot of money, because I think this is 10 times better than half of the things Pixar has made over the last little bit, and that's why I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. It's the closest Pixar's ever got to a rom-com, and it's a damn good one at that. I thought it was great. Its characters are charming and likable. The animation is stellar, in my opinion. It has a lot of really great heart and emotion, and is actually pretty damn funny sometimes. I would definitely recommend this movie to anyone who is even slightly interested in it, and I definitely think that this is kind of this is the film I think that's gonna hopefully get Pixar going in the right direction, but it's making no money, so it might not, honestly, which really sucks because I really liked this movie. But anyways, that's where my review's gonna end on Elemental. If you like this review and want to see more, please like and subscribe down below for more content on the channel coming pretty damn soon, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. See ya.